Okay, I think we can get started. We just got like three students today, so I'm assuming because of the Thanksgiving weekend starting tomorrow, I see that some of the students in US they may have taken early break. So let's see how much we can cover. Today the lecture is going to be short. We're going to finish up 20 minutes early, but we'll catch up with the subsequent lectures. I've added an additional class as well, so we'll be able to cover everything. What was that? Um, we pretty much finished up with the search queries as much as we could get done. I hope that chapter is um, finished with unless you had any questions. I'm always open to any query related questions that we finished up. But now is the time that we have to get started with the second half of module two. We're still not finished with module two. The second half is going to talk about the traditional research methods and some additional chapters that are not related directly with the search queries. So we did finish up everything on how to build the query structures. We have completed all the advanced operators, and now is the time that we start with the second part. This has got chapters that you will find in the book that will correspond to these headings that you will see, or these topics: internet challenges, data sourcing, and surveys, and so on. So let's just get started with the sources. How do you get to the sources of information on the internet? This is um, a slide that's sharing some of the additional or some of the specialized way of using um, the search engines that have their own characteristics and properties, which is different from the main search engine. So, for example, in this slide, you could see we have main search engines, which is what we are dealing with these days with Google, especially, and main search engines, for example, Bing is one. Then we've got Yandex, we've got Baidu, we've got Yahoo. Those are all search engines, but there are others which we cannot classify as main search engines. Main search engines uh, have got infrastructure, they have data centers. Anthony just joined in. And they have, capability to index the web pages. And so they're much more elaborate. And it's an organization, basically, an organization of data servers. Those are the main search engines. And then there is a specialized search engine, which means they're pre-programmed to search specific type of, say, mm, I'm just giving you examples, and there could be many more. There is a list of specialized search engines that's put in your Dropbox as a reference, or something that you can use with the listing of specialized search engines. One of the example is PDF search engines. They'll only dig out the PDFs. There could be other specialized search engines that would only search in the social media accounts. So those kind of specialized search engines are not really main search engines, but um, just to give you an idea how these search engines are built, basically, we call search engines because they are capable of searching through the browser, or you could say that they have a browser environment that gives you a frame within which you can access the internet pages, but they may not be the main search engines, or they are programmed in such a way that they would search, but they would search in a specific way. Uh, then we've got another kind which we call meta search engines. Meta search engines don't do searches themselves, but basically they piggyback or they depend on the main search engines to collect the information, and then they display it on their real state of the frame that looks and feels like a browser. It is a browser, but it's not the search engine connected browser. It is connected through the intermediary where the information is collected on servers, which in turn is accessed through the main search engines. Okay. So they are called meta search engines or meta crawlers. Then we've got information portals for which you should have prior knowledge, knowing where you would find a certain specialized databases for, say, accessing, company information or business information or financial information. So basically, information portals have got a slightly more hard to find and more organized information that has a value for which they ask you to pay as a subscription, or they sell the databases. Okay. Subscription databases can be varied, and there are all different flavors of these subscription databases. The word deep web simply means that these pages that you get to for accessing more premium data, they are not indexed by the search engines, or anything that is behind a curtain, or there is a barrier which requires for you to make a subscription to those databases. And unless you do that, you won't be able to get to the actual database that is also called deep web. And deep web means that you cannot access it, or it is not archiving or indexing any of the pages to add to its database. It is collected separately. Okay. So we've got these five different sort of collections that we can do of information using these five different kinds of um, the search tools. Um, Now, why am I explaining this to you is because um, I would like to first of all ask you to find some time to look up some of the um, some of these specialized a collection of these specialized search engines by going to your Dropbox and accessing, as you can see on my screen, I'm going to point you to this folder, research information references. Okay. If I click on this, you will find that there is a book, and I don't know if we checked it together or not, but it has a password. I'll just show you what it has. So supposing I use this password to open it, you can even download these. See, it says download. You can download and open on your local machines. That would be a better idea, because if you do review it online, sometimes because of the internet being slow and the files being, from high bandwidth density, it is sometimes not as efficient. So let's open this. And here you can see that in this book, we have a list of information sources. And all of these that are listed here, internet information types, resources, verification, how do you do the verification of information, information challenges. This one in particular, list of specialized search engines. This is where you would find all that we talked about. List of internet information verification tools. These are another set, a list that is um, giving you the tools or different types of verification softwares that would do the fact checks, they would do the multimedia validation, they will track the source of information and so on. So this is quite extensive list and it gets updated regularly. So um, I'd say about 90%, at least 90% of the listed links, you will see that they are already checked and they are working, but there could be some that may have died down or is no longer in business, but most are working. So, for example, there is a forensic investigation tool for IT security expert. Okay, story follow tools, people monitoring tools, and so on. So this is this listing. Open source intelligence tools, that's another set of listing. If you go up a little bit, um, you can see that we have organized a list of specialized search engines under these headings, like academic, science related, arts, books, journals, and all those you can find here. And these are all specialized search engines. So if I click on this one, it would give me a list like academic archive online for physics related topics. You can just click on this and basically it is also it has got a little description that tells you what this link is going, where it's going to lead you and what type of information you will get. And most importantly, it has a rating. Like you could see that we've given it numbers. The maximum number is 5, and if you see 5 plus, that means it's top rated. In other words, it's been validated by our volunteers here, and they have checked it to give it a sort of a, you know, a marking, a weightage as to its utilization for accuracy of information and for it to have, the newest or the freshest information. That means this link will have, more of the updated information available and so on. So there are different criterias that we follow to give it the rating. So acronym finder, for example, have 5 plus, which means it is top rated. And it's for you to discover and for you to work with. And I've told you that starting from 2 and going on to about 2 through 5, you will find all of these are mentioned in the information sourcing. It's like a reference book that you can use when you do your research work. Then this slide, I'm going to talk about the deep web or invisible web. Okay. They say 96% of the web, it hides, or it 96% of the information pages or the data is held in the deep web and therefore is not visible. It is a myth and it is not a correct statement. It's because, most of the pages of, most of the portals, information portals rather, I've got um, either they are advertised or somehow there are pages that leads you to those databases or to those subscription based databases, which is in deep web. At least it takes you to the door. It gets you to where you can enter in and you can buy the subscription. So you do have access and you are led, by writing the correct keywords, you are led onto these type of portals. So in that sense, it is not invisible. Okay. Um, so um, Number one, the myth that the deep web or the web that is hard to discover is not visible. That's inaccurate. But let's look at this chart to tell you how do you differentiate the deep web versus the open web or the visible web. In the open web, the chart is self-explanatory. You could see that open to general public, we call it a layer zero or common web, or the visible part, which is above this red line, is made up of all these that we are used to exploring and discovering in all these different types of portals. There is eBay, then there is news articles and all that. That is all common web. And if we go down a little, there is a light blue shaded area. It has in it, and this is also a visible web, except that we call this portion where I'm pointing to a surface web or layer one. What layer one means is that there could be social media accounts which allow the user to either have the ability to make certain information public and make other information private. So it is a mix, but it is visibly available through navigation or through discovery when you do your common searches. If you look at what is considered deep web, it is going to be under this red line. One of the areas of the deep web we call Berger's web or layer two. So layer two is actually not really deep web in the sense that it is um, also similar to what we see in layer one, with one slight difference, that it has a zone or a kind of an area which is truly private, where there could be an interaction of third party or outsiders within a community that is privately controlled. Okay. So we do find this area to not be indexable after a certain point. Um, some of the torrents or ripped movies, the kind of movies that are pirated, and you can find these activities in this area. This is not a dark web, but it does involve, sometimes it involves illegal activities because they take advantage of um, the closed area where activity is generated but remains private. Under the Burgess web, there is this large section which has a um, um, lot of information that can be classified as private, not really private, but can be something that is closed for the common public, or the indexation of the pages behind these are restricted, and therefore those pages are not collected and indexed. So they are only discovered by either special permission through membership subscriptions. For it, one of the things that are available online, and where online is just a medium of connectivity, it's not considered a public accessible, but with special privileges, they can access this. For example, medical records, library databases, um, paid research, that you can buy, some legal documents, scientific, and so on. Anyway, all of this is just examples. idea is that you understand that what is the difference between general public free or downloadable information or anything that you can safely copy and paste from the browser is in this white area in the common web. But when you compare it with the deep web, all of these documents have got a price tag, or you have to understand that this is more valuable information and it is privileged information either through subscription or through memberships. Example of the deep web, another example of the deep web is anonymous access browsers, which means browsers like DuckDuckGo, for example. Um, these are browsers, by the way, these are not search engines. A lot of times they mention it as a search engine. Even Firefox is not a search engine, it's just a browser. And there are so many others which are private browsers that you never heard of at all. Why? Because browser basically is a program, and it is initially it was introduced as as um, as a connectivity application that has got a code that anybody can download, or it was in the public domain. It still is. And Google, for example, or Bing, they customized it and they made it. They started with the raw code or the open source code, and then they built their browsers on top of that. So basically, that script is available easily, and anybody can create their own browsers. So there are many. One more thing that hides the information and makes it non-indexable for main search engines is VPNs, or virtual private networks. Virtual private means that it is a dedicated connectivity between your machine and the server that is not um, um, is not connected as a public network. Like the IP addresses that connect them with you, or when you connect with them, those addresses are encrypted and has a dedication to be serving the pages or collecting it through that server, which geographically is placed anywhere in the world. It is that server which in turn connects you to the rest of the internet. So basically, when you are dealing with the local connectivity or connectivity through Google search, that is through the network, which means there are a lot of routers and servers and infrastructure that sort of deals with deals with the flow of information, and the communication is not direct to the servers. But in the VPN scenario, we make a dedicated connection through an IP address, which is basically given to you or generated to you for temporary usage. And that usage allows you to connect with that server. And that server in turn will open up rest of the internet, or uh, uh, the the um, the internetworks. Internetworks is a collection of networks. The internetworks of the location or the physical um, um, the physical IP address that is allocated to that server is generated by the registrar of IPs uh, for that region. So basically, that server is supposed to be opening up the door for you to browse into the environment that is separate from where you are accessing it. If you are in USA and you are accessing through VPN connectivity a server in Germany, then you will be browsing as if you are the customer of that server or that owner of that server that is located in Germany, or you are assumed to be a local there and browsing in their own country and not in US. Okay. So VPN is point-to-point connectivity without having to go through the internet directly through your local ISPs. Okay. It is going to bypass your local ISPs. And then the bottom line where there is this gray area here, this is called the dark web. The dark web has got specialized browsers. Dark web means that it is not really working or are not connected with the regular internet networks or the typical internet connectivity is not allocated to them with the IP addresses that are legit. What happens in the dark web is that they have created their own IP addresses which are temporarily generated, and at the same time they are uh, not collecting any information about the user who is accessing those servers in the deep web, and the server itself, which is in turn connected to, let's say, vendors or anyone else in communication with you. Even that location or that identity of the person who owns the website that you are accessing through servers in dark web, that identity is concealed. So user doesn't know or cannot look for or locate the owner of the website, and the owner of the website cannot identify the customer, who basically the only connection they have is the payment connection, and even the payment is done through digital currency. So it is hidden, and all the, and you, I'm sure you know, all the illegal activities happen in there. We don't have to go deep into this, but one more thing I will add for the dark web is that the addresses or the names of the vendors or those that are selling their products and services in the dark web, they are mm, they are given a temporary IP, or they are given a temporary identification that may not even reveal the name of that website. It would just say ABSGL something. It can use alphanumeric characters. So every bit of techniques and ways in which the identities of both user and those that are serving the users are concealed. The um, browser that would take you to these websites is also specialized. That means um, it is very simple. It doesn't have a lot of utilities attached to it. It only has a very simple interface, and they are created by the community who works within the dark web zone. So that community has 10 different kinds of specialized or these type of browsers. One of them is called Tor, the onion router they call it. Then there is Torch, Torch, EMEA. See, these are listed here. Candle Deep, etc. So they are given different names. Okay. Um, so that's as much as we'd want to know about the deep web. It's just your understanding of what deep web is got in it. That's all. The second part is going to talk about the adjustment of browsers. Um, we coming back to the internet bubble. Here it's giving you an example of two gentlemen named Alex and another one Corey. Region 1 or region 2, you could think that both of them are using the internet, but in two different geographical locations. Mostly, I would say you can assume that Alex is in one country and Corey is in another country. So if they're Googling and using exactly same browsers, using exact same um, search query, they would see that the results returned are different. In other words, the result for Alex and Corey are basically generated by the search engine at will based on its own preference of what it likes to serve or return back to these two gentlemen because they are separate geographically, they are not in the same region. So we have dealt with this and we have actually touched on this subject of why this happens and how the results are different. But if you want to learn a little bit more to look at it as if you are trying to neutralize that sort of implied context um, in your browser, then you would be able to do that. And that could be a good approach. Because I do it in certain searches. I don't use my personal login, which is more geared towards my personalized record of or short-term and long-term history is collected. That would create a bias for the search. So in order to avoid that, I use another account, which generally is it does not have a lot of my footprints or the kind of information I wouldn't want to share. So that sort of has a way of how you're going to make those adjustments. There is an adjustment in the privacy settings you could do, anonymity settings, security, global reach, local reach, meaning that you can customize it. These are just some of the wordings we have used for you to um, I mean, these are not exact same words that you will find in the browser, but it is just the general idea of what needs to be changed or what needs to be worked on for fine tuning it and optimizing it for your search. I would point you to a book page that would help you in figuring out uh, how to adjust some of the situations which I would think are necessary to be. When I say neutralize, it means it becomes less biased. I find those pages for you. I think this is the one. It's going to talk about the language that you're going to use that can be a big, um, that can create a difference. Like you can have a statement which you would use as a keywords or search terms, but if it is in English language, you will get certain type of results. If you convert that into another language, you will get different results. So there is this phenomena which is going to which going to have an influence on your search results. I am trying to find it. It's somewhere here, but it's a good idea that you mark those page numbers. It starts from page 240. In fact, starts from page 239. Impact of browsing for news in different languages. Um, on the other hand, the practical example of the search results that are different because of using two people working on the same search query. You can see this example on page 243. You could see there was a search query in Germany versus a search query in Canada. What were the different results? So they are analyzed in detail. In other words, it will give you an idea of how the language plays the role and how the region or geographically separated searches will bring different results. It's not important. Then we're going to talk about the challenges, the internet challenges. which is a list of, um, see, if you look at this slide, you will see that these are very short statements or short captions of the named challenges, or they are sort of um, phrased in such a way that you will mostly get the idea of what it's about. So internet challenges are important to learn because that would give you an insight or give you a sense of making personal judgments, um, based on what might be a barrier or might be a bias of sorts that would impact the neutrality of that information. So, understanding of what could be these barriers would also make you think twice before you take that information or data on its face value. So you'll give it some thought. That is why this subject, or at least this chapter, is part of your course. And these are all listed 1 through 27. That's the most that we could find, or what we think might be the influence in bringing you the non-biased and correct, accurate information. So we will discuss some of these, or you can ask me if you don't understand any of them, so I can explain them better. But they are explained in more detail, um, in at length in your book. So this slide is just giving you what could be the challenges, and for you to tell me or ask me if you need help in understanding what this means. I'll give it a break for now. We'll just take a 10 minutes, and then I'll see you in a little bit. After this break, we would do another half an hour. So we probably would have to, because I have to take a flight somewhere tonight. And that's the reason I have to make it a little bit short today. So maybe 20-30 minutes less than usual. Um, so let's just, for now, just take a break. I'll see you in a little bit. Eh? Okay, shall we continue? Is everybody back yet?
Yes.
There you are, Anthony. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Great, great. Well,
Getting,
good to see you. You can't see me.
yes, for the first time, I guess after a long time, I don't get to see you. I hope you're going to enjoy your upcoming long weekend, you know,
Yes,
and
I am. And you too. Hope you enjoy yours.
thank you. Thank you. I'm flying out tonight just so that I can make it on time. I should be there. It's going to be a long flight, so it's like probably 4.5 hours going to London.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah,
yeah, so that's the whole reason why I want to, just leave slightly earlier than usual. I think I'll spend another half an hour at the tops just to finish it up.
right.
Unfortunately, that's something that I'm really pressed for time today. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Really. Um, Romy, Mashti, Joanne, just give me a nod if you're back. I see
Oh,
that
I'm here.
Mashti, there you go. All right. So let's just look at some of these slides quickly. What I'd like to do about my plan is that there is a really a more important, these are more theoretical, like the ones that I'm going to cover today is information that could be more beneficial if you go through the book. These are just pointers giving you an idea of what might show up in the exam, or some of the chapters you will encounter will that's covering these areas. They're quite extensive. It's more for reading, right? Um, and what we are covering are just the general areas where you would pay more attention when you're reading the book, um, and you could think of it as important for the exam. And rest of it, which is more technical and something which professional researchers ought to know as as standard practice of some sort in identifying the data types. Um, and of course, there are techniques and methods and methodologies involved, which is generally considered acceptable industry-wide in research area or knowledge management area. Um, for instance, sampling techniques that are important, analytics, identifying what is qualitative analytics versus quantitative analytics, what is qualitative data versus quantitative data, these things. So those are the ones that we will start with uh, beginning next week, Monday. So for now, we're just going to cover the theoretical aspect of things, just for your information. These are not conclusive, but just the ideas behind what you will get to read when you're actually reading through the book. So I'm going to start with, where am I? Yeah, I was on this slide about internet research challenges. So let's just look at them at a glance and see. For example, easy and fast information, you have to be aware that just the fact that you're getting a lot of information coming to you does not mean that you make the incorrect selection of information which may be intentionally a piece of misinformation, or is not accurate enough, or things that you would actually accept on the face value just like that, just because it is readily available. That is what is meant by easy and fast information. Selection of, you have to be careful on what search engine or specialized tools you're going to use. Information timeline, certain information is time sensitive, like it won't have the same value if you don't get it in on time. Going on to information portals, know that you have to make a library, a list, or at least make a collection of links that can easily take you to certain portals or certain information databases that you don't have to look for or search for, or perhaps you have found something really nice as a source of information and you have put it in your links library. Organize your links library properly so you don't have to revisit it, revisit the portal or look for the same portal that you remembered you encountered but forgot to put it in your library as a link. So things of that sort. Information context, the context that you are going to look for or anything that you are querying has to have a proper context. Otherwise, the information may not be as refined or as accurate. Predictive technologies you should use in the search engine. All sorts of people also search, and questions that are showing up in the box that we have already learned. So these are nothing new for you, but to understand multicultural and language barriers, certain wordings, certain information are considered, are, well, you could say that it's censored. So you have to understand that language barriers means that you're back into the filter bubble. You need to neutralize your browser and so on. Region specific default browsing. Again, I think 7 and 8 are interchangeable or somewhat have the same um, um, direction that you have to take with the browser to be, neutralized. Net neutrality, everybody has the right, things like that. Just put anything on the web, nobody's going to check it. Um, Accessing all kinds of information or putting any kinds of opinion without responsibility or without checking its correctness. It does not mean that you're going to leverage the net neutrality as a privilege to plagiarize or for plagiarization or even for vandalizing it. Complex legal issues, you have to know that there are certain legalities involved in not only collection of information, but use of that information. So what could those be? For example, there is implied, no, not the implied, but let's call it informed consent you have to obtain from, when you're doing your surveys or when you have a sample taken as individuals, human beings, that is. So there is this responsibility, or you could say ethical practice in collection of information like that from human subjects to have a legal clearance. Or there is, like I said, there is a document called informed consent in North America in order for you to conduct those surveys. Then you've got cyber vandalism and online information sabotage. That means deliberate misinformation or where some information is actually SEO'd or optimized or keywords that don't belong somewhere, and you're just, creating that marketing cloud and basically distorting the reality of what is coming as from a single source when actually it is a collection of marketeers that together form some sort of a campaign which is just to give advantage to their clients. Then you've got corporate advertisements. These are sometimes appearing as what we call advertorials. It appears as if it is a piece of information or it's an article, but hidden in that is um, a method to bring the user from that page onto some other pages that are selling products or it is leading to their own websites. Uh, basic point is that you have to understand that there could be a subtle way of moving the reader from that page onto other pages, which is actually driving you from the main concept, or even the way it's written. It appears as if it is an opinion of some sort, or it's an expert's writing, but on that subject. But in effect, it is an advertorial. Tabloids and magazine sites, to be able to see or do fact checks in the reference lists of journalists tools, where you see forensic tools. In the book that I showed you, there is a fact check websites that you can go to, and there are these ways and their methods of figuring out whether some info to verify the source of that information. So all that will be there in the references that you see for the list that is provided. Then you've got religious beliefs. You have to see who the author is, what is his writings like. Are they very passionate, religiously very passionate about something? Political material, news media, everything needs to be vetted and to be looked at carefully. News media at times is biased. The type of same information or same article or news story that is published in North America versus what is published in Eastern Europe, certain countries that are influenced by Russia, or by by a news agency like RT, which is Russian television, versus CNN. You could see the blending of the stories, uh, or the way they are published, or how the writing is. You can see that there is a difference in opinion. Then you've got propaganda groups, which are more organized, and they are doing campaigns. They are pretty much, an organization in themselves, with agendas that they serve. Then you've got technology misuse, which is, spamming, emails that are soliciting things like that, even phishing, and all kinds of ransomware and so on. So there's technology false reviews. They're intentionally done by marketers somewhere, where they have formed. And as I think I mentioned here, um, where is it? Okay. There is these group of marketers. They collectively form a consortium of sorts, which is really, you can see how their approach is reflected in false reviews. These are the people that are working for the client for certain products and services for advertising reasons. You have to make sure that you have the ability to distinguish what could be false reviews versus the real ones. Raves and rents, something that will give rise to slander, or anything that is legally uh, can be for which they are legally held liable. Raves and rents is what really leads to those kind of informations. False surveys, um, and polls. Lot of companies that are doing it are doing I mean, first of all, these are real companies that do false surveys. And second thing is that it requires a lot of effort, and it requires an organized survey campaigns, which is very expensive. So, the reliability of those surveys can be questionable. So you have to see who did the survey. Are they well-known companies or not? Self-entitlement of opinions, consequence of rapid internet spread, which means Twitter kind of things, where the false information is going around, and it's very hard to retract that. Once it is gone, it is tweeted. It's very hard to go and check to see if it is reliable or not. By the time it is spread, the damage is done. Then you've got social media and information sabotage, ghost writers similar to false reviews. There are writers who are serving their clients to have like 10 different accounts with pseudonyms. They're writing things, they're interacting in the forums to create that the dynamism in the forum area. So you have to be able to detect that. Data generalizability with internet research. Yes, in nothing is vetted. Human subject and privacy. So this has got a legal aspect that needs to be covered. So in order for us to look at these challenges, we can go to the book and read more specifics about these topics. And there is a lot to read, unfortunately, um, in the book. So the pages that has this information are 313 and 302 as a reference. Now, let's see sources of information. Now, data itself or information is precious. This is where the value is for anyone who is using that information for whatever reasons, especially if it is an actionable data that would have a very deep or profound effect on the operations if it is a business in the business operation or for the investors or for the owners and so on. So depending on the objective of the research, you would have to analyze if the information or data can, first of all, can be checked or it is verifiable. And second thing is you need to look at the source from which it is obtained. The more premier data or the one that can be considered 100% reliable is also called primary information or primary data. In the primary data category, there are these examples, um, which is more personalized, like your diaries, if there is something written by hand, speeches, which is actually performed, cannot be denied, and it is recorded, manuscripts, letters, interviews, news, film footage, because these are permanent information that can be verified. Um, Another one is patents, copyrights, writing, music, artwork, relics, and artifacts. So all of these examples are the examples of primary information source. In this chart that is taken from the book, you can see the examples are given, um, like ancient Greek drama, because it's an original thing. Somebody has authored it, it was played. Ancient Greek plays, ancient Greek essays about drama, learning style of children, data from observational studies, data from experiments. These are all documented and it's collected firsthand. So anyway, these are the examples. Primary information is premier and it is very difficult. Sometimes the main cost of doing research is not just collection of data, but the source from where it is collected. How much of a difficulty level was there? And this data is premier, and therefore you charge higher prices and it takes more effort. Next is the secondary information source, which is what we use quite a bit, in fact, in our daily lives. This is the secondary sources that we um, collect the information from, like books, government publications, reports, newspapers, academic papers, magazines, journals. Now, if it is professional magazines that has scientific um, data collected with examples and samples of research, it just is a matter of judgment to see if there are these sources that are coming from authentic research work done by individuals who can be checked and cross-referenced. Then those type of information in journals or magazines or research papers, they can be considered a primary source. So basically, just in the general sense, the secondary informations you can see. would be all these that are listed. Then we've got tertiary, other information sources. I don't have to separate it as tertiary. Primary and secondary is good enough. I would put all these sources like databases, bibliographies, directories. It all depends on the nature of information and source and so on. So it can be clubbed either with the secondary source or even with the primary source. It is a matter of judgment to know if you will consider it or your client would consider it as primary set of info or secondary data sources. Then we've got okay, need and dependency factors, meaning that how would you scope your information sources? You will have to first of all understand that the project itself is going to dictate the scope of your research. It is going to tell you what is required. It will also include objective, and it would also state the problem that requires the research work. So all that information will be given to you, or if it is not given as a detailed scope of your work, then you have to inquire more and get that information. So what are the dependency factors? How much detail do you need? Meaning that if the scope is narrow or broad, we will learn about what is narrow and broad scope. Then we've got basic background info. There are different sets of information basically, or they are classified as the type of information for which you have to um, be very clear about. And each type has its own advantages, disadvantages, as well as the usefulness of all these information types to be put inside of the research report. For instance, there is a bit of background information. What is background information? That is what we'll have to learn. Then we've got a quick fact checks or in-depth coverage, and there could be three or four more. So depending on what could be the different types of information or the depth of information, you will have to strategize each set separately to approach how you're going to do that research for that specific information. Um, are you searching for scholarly or popular publications or both? These are the questions. Of course, you would know from the scope whether it would require, primary set or more authentic or more researched information that is already vetted and already approved. So scholarly articles or scholarly research papers may be a good solution. Um, do you need primary or secondary source or both? Depending on the type of analysis that you have to do, or like I said, not only the objective of research, but how that research needs to be used. If it is going to have an impact that could, um, be um, be either um, you know make or break the organization, or something that is more important for the say investors, and then you have to be very sure that you're using primary set of information rather than secondary. If it is secondary, then there is a disclosure you have to give. You have to give citation references and so on. And a lot of research work these days, they don't require primary information. They go for secondary set of information because time is of essence, and sometimes the primary information is not even available. Uh, or it may be more like concealed or private or sensitive. What is the type of research you're doing? So the type means that after you have done the collection, if you have made um, a plan for collecting the information and the process that you would adopt and the samples you will take, after all that is completed, now you are left with primary and secondary data. And primary and secondary can either be qualitative in nature or quantitative. Qualitative data means that it cannot be quantified, or it is to do with sentiments. it has to do with observations, or it is something that says, it's a trend analysis, for example. Um, Sensitivities about the data you collect about sensitivities, sentiments, personal opinions, things like that. Those are qualitative in nature. But quantitative are easy to work with because they give numbers and they tell you exactly if it is a good or bad, or if it is a choice, say one, two, three, and four. What would you think in that range could be your best number for the level of satisfaction? So if you do two or three or four, it has a meaning, and that could be quantitative. But quantitative usually is numbers only. It is not the same as qualitative. Qualitative is very difficult to convert into numbers, but there is procedure and there are these type of questionnaires that would deliver qualitative data that can easily be converted into the numbers, or it can be referenced in time in terms of weightage given by through numbers to those answers that you get. So the differentiation between qualitative and quantitative in the practical sense is not as easy as I've explained. And once we have an understanding of both of these type of information that is collected, we would um, after collection of that and separating qualitative and quantitative data, we would look at the methods of performing qualitative analysis and how to perform quantitative analysis. Analysis is important because without it, what are you going to do with all those numbers? So it needs to have a meaning for the management, or let's say whoever the research is made for your client to be able to make decisions by looking at different presentations in qualitative analytics. The presentation could be charts, or could be diagrams, or it could be data visualization, and same thing with quantitative. So presentation of it, how you're going to present it, is also important. After that, this one that I will cover, perhaps there is one more slide. Let's look at information search based on research objectives. Now, information sets, like I told you, are got different types of information. We classify them as background information. Usually, it's about history, that you want to introduce the company. You want to dig in a little bit more to find out where the officers of the company or the owners of the company are coming from, when it was established. So a background, it's history, it's historical data. In-depth information means that you are looking at information that is collected as primary and secondary data. You're doing due diligence, which is a step forward, separate from background. Now you're moving into what is the current scenario or the depth of the information, depending on the scope of your research. This requires more uh, detail collection of information. Quick facts means that you are collecting certain numbers, certain data that needs to be verified. It is usually cross-referenced, or it has a value for the research to use it or not use it, depending on the accuracy of quick facts. Quick facts are easy to figure out. A lot of times, you have the reference of where it's collected from. um, then you've got real-time information. You create information traps here, which means that anything that gets changed somewhere else is quickly transmitted to you. And sensitive information can also be real-time information, um, like on the ground. What do you call? How the story is evolving on the ground. Um, it matters because here you are collecting it in real time, or it could be an information on a website that is bringing fresh data or fresh statistics every single minute, or it is in real time. Whatever changes on the other end of it would also reflect on your machine as if it has a value when it is current, and it does not have a value after few minutes when a new set of information replaces it. So real-time information can be another you know uh, type of data that you will collect. Information discovery is more of investigation. You are looking for, or you're doing due diligence to inquire or figure out when some event or happening is to be investigated. Like even like say offshore assets, anything that requires for you to do um, or to collect information that is concealed or intentionally concealed. So it requires a lot of effort in its information discovery. And then you've got knowledge discovery, which means trends and predictions or something of qualitative nature, more to do with some new findings that is based on referential data that can be compared. So that knowledge, the wording knowledge may not be as easier explained, um, except that you think of it as um, a binary data, which means that it has to build relationships, a knowledge which is dependent on another set of data. So anything that needs to be compared with the standard versus what has happened, or something that has happened right now versus what has happened with the difference of time after the event, when the current event is comparable or the current data is available. Then you've got big data information, which is the information that is floating around on the internet as as the activity data or collected data that may not have a meaning for in the sense of the volume that it has gathered. There are these data units which, unless they are connected with each other as a reference or something that can be mapped as as a structured data, if that is not done, or if the relational data is not discovered, or it is not got connection with one another, then we call it unstructured data. So it is just like all the data that is coming, everything without having a relationship, or without making it into structured data tables. That is the nature of the big data, and we call it unstructured raw data. The unstructured raw data we hardly encounter because it is actually collected and processed by very large servers with mostly with IBM. IBM is working on it, and it requires a lot of processing, and it is in not only millions but billions of data sets that are collected, and maybe 5% of them are linked as referential or having a relationship. Rest of it is just sitting there and people are working on it. Then we've got analytical or statistical data that is collected through census surveys, something that is collected through social experiments, even video visuals that you are collecting, and has a nature of information that can be transformed into numbers, like a cashier in social experiment. How many customers came in and how many customers were asking for a particular thing from the cashier. So it is all statistical data. Surveys may also collect qualitative data, which is not may not be in numbers, but could be other sort of questions that eventually will have to be quantified for the answers that is given. Groups or communities, blogs, articles, and opinions. This is third party, secondary, or tertiary data, which is needs to be verified. And if it is the activity within the community, then you call it a murmur, a social murmur, and that needs to be collected in, or it needs um, mm, to be organized, or needs to be memoed. There is a process called memoing and coding. So when you are dealing with communities, you're going to apply a method which we haven't discussed yet. It requires a specialized way of how you're going to document it so that it becomes a usable data. So, all this is the type of information that we'd like to identify. Number seven is not used in research purposes. Um, even number five, we don't use that much, but everything else is important, especially the data we collect from communities, blogs, articles, and so on. So we will deal with it as if we are writing a research paper or we are giving a research proposal, and then identify which information is background information, what is in depth, what is quick facts. So we will have to look up the sample reports that we have for you, and then you will identify what type of information it is. Now, internet information reliability factors. So reliability verification is important. So one of the things you're going to look for is the author. Is the author, qualified for writing about certain technology, certain process, or is a professional in the industry? All that matters. So that plus the author needs to be verified as not only an expert in that knowledge, but also as writing for the same on the same subject, like somebody writing on the food and or culinary industry is also writing about something to do with internet research, for instance. So you want to see whether that author is just a general author who is writing for anybody on any subject, or that author has a reputation or has a professional background. Purpose of information, meaning that it should be purposeful, meaning that any information that is collected should logically have an impact on the eventual outcome or result or the conclusion, and make sense in terms of whether it is consistently complying with the objectivity of the research. Information objectivity evaluation, you have to see that at the time when the information is coming to the conclusion, or the research report is coming to a conclusion, whether that objective is reached or not. You have to see, and this is just talking about, a general writing that you see, or any piece of information that you read. It could be an article or whatever the format of it may be. These are the things you have to look for. Accuracy of information. Of course, quick facts you can check. Reliability and credibility of information. Or reliability and credibility, obviously, they go hand in hand. If it is reliable, it is credible. Reliability means that if that information can be used as a primary data source. Credibility, where the source is, where it is coming from. Is it educational institution, government, international organization? Currency of time, if it is time sensitive or not, if the information is fresh and up to date or not. Verification of links, if it is cross reference, that's best. You can check where the information is linked to and where it's coming from. So these are the type of points that we are discussing right now, mainly because of their chance of coming in the exams as a question. More of the reason why we are discussing all these, starting from the challenges and benefits, is because of the exams that would put emphasis on these specified bullet points. That's all. And these are the page numbers that you will also find in your PowerPoints. This is page 373, 362. That's where these are discussed. Okay, so now we are going to, I'll have to leave early today. So I apologize for the short lecture. I have to be going somewhere, I have to fly out. I should be seeing you on Monday. And if you are enjoying if any one of you have a long weekend to enjoy, I wish you the best. Thank you so much for this evening, for being with me. I'll see you on Monday then. Any questions, by the way? Uh, Anything I can answer for anyone? Majdi, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Anthony,
I'm okay, thanks.
Rumi,
Yes.
Johan. All right. Then I'll let you all go and see you after the weekend. Thanks.
Have a nice trip.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Happy holidays. Have a safe
And
trip.
happy holidays, especially for you, Anthony. Thank you very
All right.
much. Because you are in
Thank you.
USA. All right.
Yes. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Good weekend. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.